And we're back with the sixth in our series on living the life you love, how to get free of anxiety, depression, and stress. In this video, we're going to be talking about changing the story of our fear. As we've discussed, our fear is actually a story made up in childhood, which doesn't serve us very well today. And the story continues because we defend against it, never really testing out whether it's true. The moment we face our fear or test it out, we inevitably discover that either it was made up entirely or it's not the horrible, scary catastrophe we imagine. It's something very manageable with real solutions in real time. So in this video, we're going to be changing the story of our fear. And this is similar to what we did in the video on distraction, combined with what we did in busting the myth of our fear. But the combination leads to a new technique where we're actually going to be recreating interpretations of what we might be actually perceiving. We perceive reality and filter it through the story of our fear and make up all kinds of things that aren't actually there. Now, it's rather hard to see reality as it is without any filter. But in this instance, we're going to make up a new story, recognizing that the filters are fine as long as they serve us. We can make up some stories that are very effective. If we want to believe that we're an Olympic athlete, that's going to motivate us pretty well to run a mile in 4 minutes when perhaps our best was 5 minutes before. The idea behind creating a new story is very simple. You want to make up as many possible interpretations about what you're fearing as possible, but without the fear, of course. In this case, you want to make up stories that have happy endings or can be really outlandish. The more outlandish, in fact, the better. For instance, if we think that, actually I once had a client who had lived through a terrible ordeal where the ceiling fell in on him. And of course, this created a terrible post-traumatic stress disorder. And he was afraid to go to sleep, lest the ceiling fall in again. We had to make up new stories that instead of the ceiling falling in, he was surrounded by a bubble of invincibility. And whatever would come through the bubble was only good, and everything else was automatically repelled, as if he were Superman with a force field around him. It doesn't matter whether the story seems true or not, based in fact or not. That has nothing to do with it. And the proof of that is that the stories we make up in childhood are not based in fact. It matters only that we get some practice in freeing up our minds from the fixation we hold on what the fear says is the only possible interpretation, to realize we can generate an infinite number of interpretations. So the key here is to generate as many interpretations as possible and make them as outlandish as possible. Another good example is someone who's called in for a meeting with their boss and is very anxious or depressed, thinking that perhaps they're going to get fired, might make up interpretation that they're going to be promoted and placed in the job of their dreams. Or they're going to walk into their boss's office and find that there's a surprise party waiting for them, congratulating them on all their years of service, and so forth. I have another patient who has a fear of zombies. And it sounds funny to us, perhaps, but it's quite upsetting to him. And so I asked him, what do zombies look like in your mind? And he described, figures that had decrepit body parts falling apart here and there. And so I said, let's make up a story that this particular zombie has a head that detaches and then starts spinning around and levitating and throwing sparks out of its eyes and doing all kinds of fanciful things as if it were 4th of July. Well, the crazier he got with it, the more it made him laugh, and his anxiety started to disappear. I hope you get the idea, but if it seems silly to you, realize it's no sillier than the fear you're making up, creating all your anxiety or depression or stress. Behind every anxiety or depression or stress is a made-up, false idea that's imprisoning you into an idea of reality that just isn't so. And reality then becomes nothing more than what we make up. So we might as well make up something that's fun or funny or interesting or exciting. I invite you to give this exercise your best, and you'll be surprised at the results. In the next video, we're going to be working with another technique, this one getting more at the root of what causes our fear, leading to anxiety, stress, and depression, so that we have some real power to manipulate it into a more desirable understanding of what's possible for us.